Hey, scrappy people. Tracy Reed here today, coming at you with a process video slash tutorial on how to use the re-released Clip It To Me clipping masks for Photoshop. These were some of my favorite tools, my most popular tools that I released a while back, but I decided it was time that they returned to the store so that more people, new people, could play with them. I also re-released 3 different stamp alphabets, and I'll be using one of them in this video today too. Now you can use the stamp alphabets with like Canva or Letter Glow on your phone. You can use the clipping masks in Procreate or even in Canva in some instances on your phone, although I would definitely say Procreate is the better bet. But I'm going to be working in Photoshop today, and I'm going to link the blog post for this in the description box below, which will have a tutorial from Trish on how to use these in Procreate, the clipping masks in Procreate. Also, there is a link in the description box below to how to use stamps, digital stamps on your phone as well. So let's get started. So I'm going to use almost all the clipping masks. I think I don't use one set of the clipping masks on this layout so that you can see how to work them all, because they're slightly different ways to use them. So these are the torn edges, the layered torn edges. So they are Photoshop files. The tear is separate from the background, but it is a clipping mask. So I'm going to be using it to clip a paper too. And I'm also going to be clipping my photo to something as well. But first, let's start with the papers. And I'm going to be using the absolutely free Tempest collection today for this layout. So I've got the paper I want to clip to the paper layer for the template on top of that layer, and then I just hit Alt and clicked in between the 2 layers, and now it has the layer clipped to that mask. I'm going to be using these textured wrinkled masks for my photo, so I need to make it smaller, so I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to clip my photo to this mat, and then I have to play with blending modes so that I can see the texture. So I'm going to zoom in, and you can see that I'm moving this down, and I'm going to make it slightly smaller than my photo because I want the photo to clip to the mask with no overhang. Then I'm going to duplicate the mask, put it on top of my photo, and change the blending mode. So you can use soft light, overlight, or hard light. Those are generally going to be your best bet. I like hard light, but sometimes it can mess with the color. So you just really have to play around until you find something that you like. You can duplicate the layer and change the opacity so that you get even more of a wrinkle. You can change the blending mode. It's just really about playing. I prefer hard light, but you know, you can do lots of different things. There's also, or I merged all of the layers together, and I'm going to repeat the process again, but this time with a paper. And you can see how it, the clipping mask interacts with the paper versus the photo. So I'm just going to make it a little bit smaller so that it's the right size here. And then I'm going to drag and drop in a paper so that I can clip it to this mask. Make sure I clip it to the right mask, then duplicate the layer, drag it on top, and change the blending mode. So that's overlay, soft light, and hard light. Again, you get the best wrinkle with hard light, but you can see how it changes the color. So I'm going to change, or I duplicated it and changed it to, or duplicated the layer and changed that one to soft light. And then I adjusted the opacity to 50%. I like the way that looks. And I like the wrinkle on both of these here, so I'm going to move on to another clipping mask. These ones are my favorite. So this is a journal card from part 2, I think. Yeah, part 2 of the Tempest collection. And then I'm going to use Clip It To Me, the folds along the outside edge. These are PSD files too. So I'm going to have to drop it in Photoshop. Whenever I decide. If I put it directly on the layer, it won't, or on the file, it won't have layers. So I have to make sure that I open it up separately and then copy it onto my file. You can see that there is a layer for the crumple, a layer for the drop shadow, and a layer for the paper. So I want to make sure all of those layers make it onto my layout. I've resized this to begin with just because I knew it was going to need to be smaller. Needs to be much smaller still. So I'm going to resize it to the height of my journaling card, which took me a second because there was that shadow that was throwing it off. Then I sandwiched the journaling card in between the background paper and the drop shadow and crumple so that the drop shadow is over the top of the journaling card. Adjust the size here again. And then I'm just going to use my rectangular marquee tool and draw a rectangle on all of this excess paper, and I'm just going to delete it from the paper layer. So now I have my journaling card clipped to the paper layer, and I need to add something to the fold to make it colorful. So I'm just going to drag another paper on top of it, clip it to the crumple, and then just like the last one, I'm going to change the blending mode to hard light or soft light or overlay. I think we go with soft light? No, overlay for this one, maybe. Oh, we went with soft light. No, overlay. Oh yeah, we just duplicated it so that now we have it more, you can see the crumple more. Now that I have that done, I'm going to merge it all together so that it's all one piece. And now I have a really cool crumpled edge for my journaling card. All right, merge them all together. Okay, so that is 3 of the 4 packs of Clip It To Me. I did not use the strips because they didn't really fit with this layout, but they are the same concept. They have texture, so you would just change the blending mode. So now I can go about building my layout. And I'm going to speed it up just a little bit since it is more repetitive at this point and I don't really need to talk through techniques. I am going to add more torn paper strips to this page, but first I just want to tuck things in. I'm building this one in Photoshop just like I did last week with a different layout showing you how to use the bottoms up templates. So when I go to print this, I'm going to use the same technique that I used with the bottoms up templates. So I will link that video in the description box below if you want to know how to get from Photoshop to hybrid in layers. I usually use my silhouette unless it's something super easy, then I can just print and hand cut. But it's a super fun way to scrapbook, and it's probably my favorite way to scrapbook. So if you are itching to try out a little bit more complex techniques when it comes to your scrapbooking, I got you. So it's linked in the description box below. So we won't be covering how to go from Photoshop to print in this video, but it is linked below. So now I have this side of the layout pretty much done. I think I'm going to add in some icons as well, but I want to make sure I get all of my snarky sentiments from the Tempest collection well and truly placed on my layout so that I know that they're all there. Of course, you know me, I love to use so many words, so I'm trying not to use too many. So here come the clouds instead, and I'll add a little flower too. But I do need to add something for journaling, so I'm going to use this journaling card from part 2, and that's where I'm actually going to put my lettering with my Alphabetes stamps. So you can use Alphabetes stamps or any digital stamps on your phone as well. Letter Glow will let you recolor them, but you can use them in Canva, you can use them in Procreate. My my alphabets come with PNG files, so they're pretty much importable for anything that will use PNG files. I was trying to decide if I wanted to add an edge to that, but I decided no, we'll just add more more layers in the background. I wanted to make sure that I got something going on up at the top of this page, and I didn't really want to add in more embellishment or more words, so we're going to add in more torn paper. All right, decided I wanted it this way instead of facing down. Perfect. So I need to add one more paper behind this now. Moving it down. Okay, once I got this figured out, then I can move on to my title. I knew something was bothering me. Perfect. And it matches that card too. Cute. Oh, goodness. Oh yeah, we want to go with the cardboard instead. Now I like it. Okay, so let's back to the decorating here. I want to add in some more of the icons. This is from part 1, which has all of the sticker icons for the Tempest collection. So I'm going to add just one flower in here. It's going to be mostly clouds because I feel like that matches the mood of the layout a little bit better. I'm adding drop shadows in just so that I can see the layers. I have a hard time seeing or differentiating between the layers in Photoshop if they don't have shadows. It's just how my brain is wired from digital scrapbooking for so long. But I will turn off all of those shadows before I go to print so that they don't print and cut the shadows as well. I wanted a tag back here, but I didn't want this blue one. I didn't need more word strips, so I'm just going to clip a paper to it. And I decided to go with this peachy pink color because of it wasn't well represented in the layout, so we're going to go with that. One more cloud, and then I can add my title. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the Alphabetes, and I'm going to drag and drop the ABR file, which are brushes, into Photoshop. Now, if you're using this in something other than Photoshop, you're just going to want to use the PNG files, but I'm going to use the brushes, and I'm going to sample this blue color from the collection so that when I stamp my title, it stamps in the blue color from the collection. You can do that with your brush tool just by holding down Alt and clicking on a color. So I'm going to just make them the size that they are and work around the fact that it's going to go off this tag. And then I will resize it once I have all of the letters stamped. So you can see it goes off the tag. That's okay though, because I'm going to make them all a little bit smaller. Perfect. Oh, don't forget work. So I'm going to rearrange a little bit too. This is why I love, 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 love digital stamps, because I always screw up regular stamping, but with digital stamps, it's not, as long as you're stamping on a separate layer, you don't screw it up. So it says I work out to avoid charges. Facts. All right, so we are just about done here. I'm going to add in a little bit more mixed media. I want to add in the scribbles to match that Feeling Moody card and just to add a little bit more oomph to this page. When I go to print this page, that white background with the clouds, I will print the white background with the clouds with the mixed media on it. Now I could print the papers, all three papers in the background as one piece and save ink and time and paper, but I'm going to print every single ripped paper layer as its own piece, and you'll see that in just a second when we go over to the real world, and I'll talk to you about it again because I'm pretty sure I said that in my voiceover. But now I'm just about ready. Everything looks perfect, so we're going to go over into the real world and finish off this layout. All right, so I've got everything printed and cut from my silhouette, although most of this would have been easily printed and cut by hand too. Ooh, excuse me, hiccups. But you can see I printed all of my papers in layers. If you want to save paper and ink, you can actually print all of the layers except for this top layer that we sandwich things in between. You can print all of them as one file, and that would save you ink and paper, but I wanted the texture and depth of having all of the layers printed because I think I'm gonna rough up the edges a little bit to go with the tearing. You can see the texture on my photo as well as the rougher edges that I just hand cut around. Could have sent that through my silhouette like I did this one, but it was just a 4x6, so I didn't bother. So I'm just going to recreate the layout that I have on Photoshop in real life. And I'm just gonna rough up some of the edges. Maybe I'll ink something. Let's grab some ink. Maybe I'll ink some edges. Who knows? I'm gonna play and finish this layout. So let's go. All right, so we're gonna go super fast through this part, not this fast the whole time, but we're gonna go super fast through this because it is definitely just reassembling exactly what I did in Photoshop. I'm roughing up the edges of these tears here to make them look a little bit more worn, but you can see how realistic those tears look. When printed out. It looks so good. There's such great texture on those tears. You really don't have to rough them up to make them look realistic, but I like to just rough things up anyway, so I did. So I've got these 3 layers down, but the purple layer, things need to go underneath it, so I'm not gonna put it down fully yet. I'm just gonna paste down the bottom edge so that it just stays in place and I know where to tuck things in. Perfect. I actually accidentally ripped it. So we're getting even more authentic here. And then my silhouette actually snipped the corner there, and I tried to glue it down, but it's not gonna go down, so we'll snip it off later. But I'm just trying to put these back down in the order that they need to be in. So the frame needs to be sandwiched in between the photo and the background, or the mat, I should say. So I'm going to make sure I put them down in order. And then the feeling moody needs to go on top of that. I want to make sure that the photo gets covered up where it needs to be covered up and not too much. And then I'm going to add in a little bit, or I'm going to add in the embellishments. That's what I meant. The embellishments for this side of the page too. I put down this blah and then I start inking edges of things, and I really should have inked the edges of that blah. So I'm going to pull it up again and ink those edges in just a minute. I'm also going to ink the edges of all of the clouds just to make them stand out a little bit more. I cut and punched holes in my layout so that I knew, you know, where one side ended. And also it was getting super thick with all those paper layers, so I wanted to make sure I could cut it and punch holes still while it was still nice or it was still not too thick for the hole punch. Now I am making sure that I'm framing this tag the way that it looks on the screen, just referencing my Photoshop file to make sure that everything goes down in the right place. Now I'm going to ink all the rest of these. And then I decide that as much as I love this, it needs just a little bit more texture once I get these clouds down. I like everything that's going on here. Obviously there's a lot of printed texture and there's a lot of mixed media going on, but I just felt like I could use something that would pop off the page. So I decided to add in some black sequins. I thought black ones would really go well with the vibe of the page. First, I only put down 3 in each corner, kind of like you would enamel dots, but I didn't think that that had enough of an impact, so I start adding them so that they're trailing across the page, and then I go a little crazy and add some more. I love it though. Lastly, I'm going to add some string to this tag, and then I think I add a couple of more sequins just because, you know, if a handful of sequins is good, then you know, a million is great. I need to ink the edges of this blah like I said I was going to. I think this really helps to make it stand out a little bit. And then I will put it right back and add in a sequin or two and call it good. So if you enjoyed this video, I'd love it if you give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, go ahead and subscribe. I would love to have you. If you don't already, you can follow me over on Instagram. I'm at Tracy M. Reed. I'd love to see you over there as well. Don't forget to check out the blog post in the description box below and grab these tools on sale while they are on sale this weekend. And I will see you next time. Thank you.